everybody.
Hello.
We're trying to figure this out. Welcome to our first live interview with a geologist. So we're going to give it here just a minute, and we're going to go ahead and interview our geologist today. This is Ms Jennafer Brooks. So we're gonna talk with her just for a little bit. So all right, let's go ahead and get started for any live viewers that we might have. All right. So, Jenna, what drew you to geology?
So my dad is actually a geologist, and when I was deciding what major I wanted to pursue, I always remembered how much my dad enjoyed his job and how much he liked to talk about rocks, and at a young age he instilled a love for rocks, and I share that with him, and it's the rest is history.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting.
Oh, yes.
All right, so how long have you been interested in geology?
Probably since I was a child. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now this one might be obvious to me because I'm your friend, but we're going to see how you answer this one. All right, what is your favorite geology-related thing to do?
I really super duper enjoy hiking. And probably what my favorite thing to do is to go hiking with my best friend who is also your geology teacher.
That's me.
Yeah,
that's me,
her.
by the way. Okay.
Because I always learn something new. And I actually live in Alaska, and one of my favorite things is to go and buy guides for the area that I'm hiking in and annoy all the rest of my friends with random geology facts about the area.
I wouldn't consider it annoyed, but that's fantastic.
And Alaska has lots and lots of glaciers, so I've been learning a lot about glaciers.
Excellent. All right. So, Jenna, where do you work?
I work for the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management in Anchorage, Alaska, and we regulate the oil and gas industry. So that office regulates all activities on the North Slope.
Excellent. So what specifically do you do?
So on a day-to-day basis, we monitor and manage the reserves that belong to the federal government that are collected in offshore continental shelf waters. So basically anything that's 3 to 6 miles out from state waters is considered federal waters, and I help assign reserves and resources. So, and I've done that for 10 years. So,
That's
and in my day-to-day, I work a lot on computers with mapping software, and we map and assign acreage to prospects and all that good stuff. So it's a lot of computer work and a lot of well log interpretation.
Excellent. So why is your career important?
To me or to
the world. Why is what you do important?
Well, so for as far as my job's concerned, because I am a public servant, so we feel like our job is important because we are making sure that the American people are getting fair market value for the prospects that the oil companies are developing and selling for their own personal profits. So you want to make sure that the government and the people are getting what they deserve. So that's why my specific job is important.
Awesome. I'd say that's pretty important.
Yeah.
All right. So what is one thing you love about your career?
So I love working with the federal government because just in general, so that career path you can get in is really good. But I specifically like geology or being a geologist technically I'm a geophysicist.
So what's the difference between a geologist and a geophysicist?
So the geophysicist concentrates more on the properties of rocks and how they respond to certain instruments and tests. And like in my job, your geologist is going to focus more on well log interpretation. And then me, the geoscientist or the geophysicist, I'm more concerned about seismic attributes and actually how to mess with the seismic data to make it say what I need it to say, basically. So,
all right, so I'm gonna go off my script here for a second to ask because some of my students may not know what this means. What do you mean by well log? What is a well log?
So a well log is an electrical or some other test. Okay, so they lower a tool, and the tool would be anywhere from like 3 to 6 feet long. Usually about like maybe that. Imagine that's a whole. I don't have my other arm.
She broke her scapula.
Yeah, my scapula. So here, look, finish the circle with me. Like about that big, and you lower that down a well, right? And then you turn the tool on, and depending on what tool it is, so like a gamma ray tool is one of the 3, like the suite 3 log suites that you usually get, and the gamma ray records the gamma ray response of rocks. So like shale looks different than sandstone, and that's basically what you're trying to do, is do the difference whether it's sand or shale. So sand is reservoir rock, shale is non-reservoir.
So basically, as we've talked about in class, this is kind of giving you like an x-ray into the earth, right? So you want to see what's going on inside your body, or you might have broken a bone, you go get an x-ray. This is basically kind of like the x-ray we can see, right, with the layers inside the earth. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
It's a pretty good...
And one other thing, also going off script, one of my supervisors, one of his favorite things to ask new hires or somebody that he was interviewing is, if you had a choice between having well data or having seismic data for a prospect that you were trying to buy, what would you get? And I answered it perfectly, because I was like, I wouldn't want to choose, I would want both. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, because sometimes well data shows you things that aren't there, and sometimes seismic data shows you things that aren't there. So, and there's all sorts of things, and that's part of what you need to know, is like what each measuring, type or whatever, whether you're doing the seismic data or the well log data, you need to know its limitations. So that's why you want both. You want everything that you can possibly have. So that's probably partly what got me the job.
Fantastic. So there's a little hint for all of you
That's
budding
right.
geophysicists
You
out
want
there.
all the data.
All the data. All right. So what happened to your most favorite or funniest day at work?
Actually, that involves my child. She's 9. So I was doing this 12-week-long class, because part of being a geologist or a geoscientist in general is that you have a lot of training on the job. I probably take between 40 and 60 hours per year of classroom training. So this particular training was actually 12 weeks long, 8 hours a day. The first 6 weeks was a project, or was classes, and then the second 6 weeks was a project. And I was having to take a lot of work home, which actually I'm not used to that, being a federal employee. So I take my work home, and I have this huge seismic section, and I've got all these colored pencils, and my daughter, who was probably about 5 at the time, comes in, Mommy, I want to help you color. And I'm like, I can't, baby, like, this is for work. And her eyes got like these huge saucers. She's like, you get to color for work? And I was like, yup, you should be a geophysicist. So that's my favorite story.
So you too can color at work.
You too can color at work. Although, I will say this, when I was in college, I was a barista, and I was working at Cece's Coffee House, and I used to get free cookies, and I told Megan that, and Megan was like, Mommy, why did you ever leave? And I was like, because I was making $6 an hour.
But free cookies.
But free cookies.
Free cookies.
Free cookies. So.
All right, 2 more questions.
Okay.
What are some of the technologies you use at your job?
So one of our mission statements at the this particular bureau is that we want to be the industry standard. So we don't want to be behind what the industry is doing, because we're regulating the oil industry, so we should have the same tools and technologies that the oil industry uses. So currently, like, and if you want to do what I do in the same or similar capacity, you absolutely need to have workstation-based interpretation experience. And that can just be there's free software available, so we do that. We actually run a suite called Petrel, which is, it's what Shell uses, it's what BP uses, it's what Exxon uses. So we have that. We do a lot of, basically everything that we do now is on the computer, even though some of us, me included, I prefer paper logs and paper seismic, but that's not normal. But yeah, so we do a lot of that technology, but we're on we're not collecting data, we're just interpreting data. So it's a lot of workstation-based interpretation. So.
Excellent. All right, one last question for those of you that might doubt why you need geology in your life. Do you think it is important for people to study geology?
Absolutely. Okay, so my favorite thing about geology in general is that I can look at something that most people just go, hey, that's pretty, and I'm like, I know why that's there. Like, and that's glaciers, for example, are beautiful, right? And they're these huge, chunks of ice, and that's what somebody said, oh, is that snow? And it's like, when they ask me, I'm like, okay, do you want the short version or do you want the geologist version? But I just think it's really cool to know, like, you're looking at something and like, okay, and I can look, so I mentioned before, I live in Alaska. That entire region was shaped by glaciers. So, like, I can see features that are here today, and I know, like, hey, that was caused because this, like, we're in where glaciers used to be. The entire city of Anchorage used to be a glacier. Like that's why it's a bowl. That's you get the giant flat U-shaped valleys. So that's my favorite part, and I think that's what I mean. Even if you just take a couple of geology classes, you really start to appreciate. I remember a vacation that you and I took one time where we were going through this giant. I guess we were in I guess it was New Mexico, going to White Sands, and like we were in that huge open plain, and you were like, "Oh my God, this used to be this," and I was like, "Oh, it totally was." And then we started talking, and
She
like
had a light bulb
yeah,
moment.
and like the kids in the back were just like, "Mom." Okay, you know, but like, yeah, so I think it's really cool to like be able to look at things and say, and you have an idea, like a lot of people don't understand geologic time, and they don't understand that like you're not talking about thousands of years, you're not talking about millions of years, you're talking about billions of years. So like that's the other cool thing, is like to understand geology, you understand the whole picture. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brooks.
That's right.
So that was a great kickoff to our interview series, and we will be back every week with an interview. Thanks.
Oh.
No, there we go. Bye, everybody.